Hey everyone, welcome back to Investing Talk podcast. We always like to focus on stocks that are really well, making some noise in the market. And that's exactly what United States Antimony UAMY is doing right now.
Oh, absolutely. It's been on my radar for a while now. This whole critical minerals space is just heating up.
And antimony, right? Not exactly a household name.
You're telling me. But it's in everything these days, from flame retardants to batteries. I mean, the demand is through the roof.
All right, so let's break it down for our listeners. UAMY, up over 550% this year.
Yeah, well over 550% since January. And last week, 65% jump just last week.
That's nuts. I mean, come on, what's driving this? Is this just pure speculation or is there something real here?
Well, that's what we're going to dig into today.
Right?
Right? We got to separate the hype from the actual fundamentals.
Exactly, because on the surface, it looks like a classic pump and dump.
It does, doesn't it? But then you have H.C. Wainwright comes out with a buy rating.
$2.50 price target.
Almost double where it's trading now. I mean, when analysts get that bullish, it makes you wonder what they're seeing.
It does. So what are they seeing? What's the bull case for UAMY?
Well, a couple things. First, like I said, the demand for antimony is booming right now. The global supply is struggling to keep up, so anyone who can get their hands on this stuff.
They're in a good position.
Exactly. And that's where UAMY comes in. They're acquiring new mines in Alaska,
In Ontario.
trying to ramp up production.
Smart. But can they actually deliver? I mean, their last earnings report showed sales up to $2.42 million.
Yeah, and gross profit up 107%.
Okay, that sounds great. But they're still losing money, right?
Right. Still unprofitable. Net loss of $0.73 million for the quarter.
So yeah, the revenue growth is there,
Yeah.
but can they turn it into profit? That's the big question.
And it's a tough one because they're also facing some pretty serious headwinds.
Like what?
Like China. For starters, about 87% of global antimony production comes from China, so that's a big geopolitical risk to consider.
Yeah, you're reliant on one country for such a critical mineral. That's
Yeah.
always a gamble.
And on top of that, operating costs are rising for everyone in the mining industry. So even if UAMY does manage to increase production,
Profit margins could still get squeezed.
exactly, there's a lot of moving parts here. And some analysts are actually pretty bearish on UAMY.
Bearish. Like how bearish?
Well, some are predicting a potential 80% drop in the stock price.
Whoa, 80%. That's a huge swing. So we've got some saying buy.
And some saying run for the hills.
So what's an investor to do? Well, stick with us because we're going to dig into all of this and more right after the break.
We'll be right back. I think for me, the key here is UAMY's strategy. Like, how are they actually going to pull this off?
Right, because it's one thing to talk about acquiring mines and ramping up production.
It's another thing to actually do it.
Exactly. So let's look at some of the moves they've been making. They just moved their headquarters.
From Montana to Dallas.
Texas, yeah. Big change.
It is interesting move, though, right? Gets them closer to a major business hub.
Maybe trying to attract more investors or talent.
Could be. They've also brought in a whole new leadership team. Gary C. Evans is the new CEO.
He's got a strong background in corporate strategy.
Growth, yeah. He's all about scaling up fast.
All right, so new leadership, new location.
Yeah.
What about the actual mining?
Ah, well, that's where Joe Bardswich comes in.
He's the new chief mining engineer.
And he's got a plan.
Lay it on us. What's the plan?
He's focusing on known deposits, but on state and private lands.
Interesting. Why?
To avoid the federal regulations, basically they can get these mines up and running much faster.
Ah, so it's a speed play. They're sacrificing scale for speed.
Exactly. It's a gamble. They're betting that they can generate enough cash flow from these smaller, quicker-to-develop mines.
To then fund larger projects down the road.
Right. It's a high-risk, high-reward strategy.
It is. And what about the whole China thing? How are they addressing that?
Well, their focus on domestic production is key. They're saying, look, we can be a reliable source of antimony right here in the U.S.
Reducing reliance on China. That's a good selling point.
It is. And don't forget about that insider buying.
Right. Michael A. McManus Jr. bought 70,000 shares.
Back in December, big vote of confidence.
It seems like there's a lot to like about UAMY. But there are also some big question marks.
No doubt about it. It's a risky play.
So for our listeners out there, what should they be watching for? What are the key things to keep an eye on?
I think it comes down to execution. Can they really get these mines up and running quickly and efficiently? And can they do it while maintaining quality?
Yeah, because if they hit any snags,
Any delays, cost overruns.
that stock price could tank. Remember those analysts predicting an 80% drop?
Yeah, that's a real possibility if they don't deliver.
So it's a race against time, really.
It is, and it's a race against some pretty stiff competition, too. Don't forget about China.
Right. They still control the majority of the market.
Exactly. So UAY's got to prove that they can not only produce antimony,
But produce it at a scale.
and a cost that can compete with China.
So for our listeners out there who are thinking about investing in UAMY,
Do your research.
don't just jump in because of the hype.
Look at their financials. Understand their strategy.
Talk to other investors.
And most importantly, consider your own risk tolerance.
Because this is a high-risk, high-reward play.
No doubt about it. If UAMY succeeds,
The upside is huge.
but if they fail,
It could be a painful ride down.
that's the nature of investing, especially in a volatile sector like mining.
Well said.
Mm-hmm.
So to wrap things up, it seems like UAMY is a company with a lot of potential.
But also a lot of risks.
Their success will depend on their ability to execute their strategy.
And overcome some significant challenges.
It's a story that's still being written.
And we'll be watching closely to see how it unfolds.
So that's it for today's episode of Investing Talk Podcast.
Thanks for tuning in.
And don't forget to subscribe to the show and leave us a comment. We love hearing from our listeners.
And if you have any other investment ideas you'd like us to cover, let us know. Until next time, happy investing.